Hi everyone, today we are going to launch our work on our final project for our literary nonfiction unit. Today I'm going to ask you to start planning, designing, and hopefully working on your literary nonfiction synthesis page. So today I want to remind you of a couple of things. Number one, today I want to teach you that thoughtful readers use their notebooks as a tool for collecting and presenting their best thinking about their novels in creative ways. Now this builds off the work that we did in our historical fiction unit. I apologize in advance for not having all of your notebook pages graded, but I will have them for you on Monday so you can see some of the things that you need to continue to work on. However, you'll notice that today's slideshow builds off of that work by taking the things that I have observed and putting them into one place so that way you have some, I don't want to call it generalized feedback, but some feedback of some trends that I saw that we definitely need to address and make sure that we improve upon in this particular project. As I mentioned to you yesterday, using your notebook as a tool is an effective way to capture your absolute best thinking. And you'll see in the bullets below that there are 6 skills or thinking strategies that we've practiced over the course of this unit that I want you to pick from when doing your actual page. Obviously, I don't want your page to capture all of these things, but I do want your synthesis page to demonstrate some sort of complexity, and therefore the use of multiple concepts from this list is always an interesting way to approach the project. With that said, your goal today should be to isolate at least one key concept that is most important in your books. Yesterday, I asked you to complete an exit slip question where you did this, so you have or should have a reference point. If you did not complete that particular assignment, I'm going to ask you to pause the video right now, take a look at these particular elements, figure out which one works best for your particular book, and then go and complete that exit slip so I can give you some quick feedback over the weekend. So now that you have a concept, I want to remind you of some of the tweaks that we're making. First off, we're still sticking with the side-by-side pages in your writer's notebook. We're going to make sure to include the title author at the top. That's something we did in the last one. But this time we're also going to include that concept that we talked about in our exit slip question. So the title of our actual page should read something like, if I were using hidden figures, for example, I might say something like social issues in hidden figures. Or I might say economics in hidden figures or history in hidden figures. Something that isolates what it is that I'm doing from a concept standpoint based on the 6 skills that I have. We're going to make sure that in this notebook page that we are capturing text evidence from across our entire novel, which I'll talk more about in a second. And then finally, we'll be doing a reflection in class later in the week. So when it comes to text evidence, many of you were really good in our last project about including multiple pieces. You understood and hit this particular requirement here where it says multiple pieces, minimum of 3 pieces of text evidence, all properly sorted. But many of us did not pick text evidence from across the entire novel. So for this particular assignment, I want to make sure that we are all looking at text from the beginning, middle, and end of the book. Please make sure that you have that, and if you don't have that, you should use class time today to do some planning around that before you even design your project. You should use your annotations. You should go back into any of the chart work examples that we have just as a thinking exercise and use that as an opportunity to go back into your books and find the evidence that you need, find the moments that you need. Don't be afraid to ask for help from your classmates, your peers in your groups, not people in other groups, because the people in your groups should have additional annotations and additional thinking that might be able to help you locate the moments that you're looking for. We also want to make sure that when we're doing our analysis that we're using the language of the unit. For example, if we're talking about a particular social issue, I should see that social issue come up in your analysis. The title of your notebook page should not be the only place where that appears, right? So let's make sure that and another example would be something like if I'm doing social science lenses, I should see the individual social science lenses come up in our writing. I should see words like history, geography, economics, civics. I should see those words emerge in the analysis. So that's going to be super important for you. Okay. And then lastly, obviously, we want the presentation to be good. We want there to be some sort of graphics to help our minds connect to the ideas. We want there to be color coding. We want you to use really specific skills to help us do that. So one of the things that I made sure to do, number one, is remind you of the strategies that we've learned, that we've used in class. We've used chart work. Now I put a 3-column chart, but you might decide to use something like a 4-box chart like we saw in our social science lesson. The bottom line is that if you're not sure, you're like, well, how would I use a column chart? Well, here's a perfect example. It's a great way for isolating pivotal moments, a piece of text from the novel, and including some analysis. So your chart can actually flow across your page, or even vertically, depending on how you want to approach it. So just think about it in those terms, and don't be afraid to use some color to help emphasize those different parts if you're not sure about the overall organization. We did some web work when we talked about cause and effect, but web work can work in other ways too. Like if you have a really good central idea in the middle and you simply want to use evidence to support that, you can have the evidence all around that central idea. Same thing with theme work. You could actually highlight multiple social issues doing it that way. So web work can work for a lot of different things, not just cause and effect. And an idea tree is very similar to a web. The only difference is that the main idea of what you're talking about is at the top. So again, if I have a social issue or theme, I put it at the top, and my eyes just kind of branch down from there. So in this particular slideshow, as I demonstrated yesterday, you're going to see a variety of different examples from students over the last couple of years. For each one of those samples, you will see some of the positives, in other words, things you should mimic, and some of the negatives, things that maybe you need to improve upon if you were going to use this particular model. You'll notice that in most of the models, there is some sort of reflection included on the page. I just want to remind you that we are not doing that on our actual notebook pages. We will do that in Google Classroom on a separate document. So as you go through, you can ignore the reflection going on down at the bottom and just know that you will be doing that in a separate place. Here it is again, and here it is at the bottom of this one, okay? So what I'd like for you to do today, as you can see all of the different models here in the video, you will see in Google Classroom that I've shared this particular assignment slideshow with you, so you have access and can work through each of the samples at your own pace and decide which one might work best for you. But before you start any work on your project, I want to remind you of a couple things. If you have not finished your novel, that is your priority today. And remember that if you're supposed to be doing annotations in your actual book, that's for my on-level kids, you must do them in the book. Do not just finish the book and just move on without having done any annotation work, because that will hurt you in your annotation grade. Once you finish your book, our focus should now be on picking, designing, and figuring out how we're going to do our project. You already identified a potential main idea for your project. If you change your mind, that is totally okay, but please send me a private comment in the exit slip assignment that we completed yesterday so that I know that you're changing your mind. Then make sure to start collecting ideas, and remember that last time we actually did a draft in our notebooks. In other words, we burned 2 pages just kind of sketching out what we wanted it to look like. Take the time to do that. Remember that planning for even 2 to 3 minutes inevitably leads to a better product. So make sure that you do that today. And then we'll be working on this all next week. So for my friends who are leaving early for vacation, just know that I would hope that you can get this done before you leave. So feel free to use time over the weekend, particularly if you know you're going to leave early. If you're leaving on like Wednesday or Thursday, you'll have plenty of time to work on it in class. So that way working over the weekend would not be necessary. Okay. So the only homework for you guys today is if you are behind. Okay, so being behind means that you haven't completed the following 3 things. You haven't finished your book, you haven't finished the reading log that we did yesterday, and you haven't finished the exit slip in the last assignment on the feed. If you've done those 3 things, you have no homework this weekend. However, if you need to do any of those 3 things, please make sure you wrap those up so that next week our only focus is on this synthesis page project. If you have any questions, feel free to email me and I will get back to you over the weekend. Have a great weekend, guys. Work hard, and I'll see you guys on Monday.